right. I'm just confirming everywhere that we're live.
We are live.
We are, yeah. So don't say anything dumb, but I'm just making sure it's working on the YouTube.
Got it. I see it on YouTube. I see it live.
Okay, we are.
On
Okay,
YouTube.
cool. All right,
Twitch as well.
hit it, Sean.
Cool. So today is the day that we've all been waiting for. We finally learn what it is that happens in Amazing Spider-Man 26, because of course we all waited, until today, June 1st, to learn that. Well, I guess it would have been yesterday, to learn this information. It's not like we got spoiled or anything. It's not like, as Kale pointed out to me, the entire comic was posted on Twitter or anything like that. It's not as if 2 weeks ago the whole thing was spoiled. So, strap in. We've got a lot to talk about when it comes to this book.
And it's not like the company itself spoiled the issue.
No. Yeah, no. So we're going to be talking a lot about that. We've got actually 5 books that we want to discuss today. So in addition to the aforementioned Amazing Spider-Man, as you can see, I have the spoiler variant, and I will flip that over when it is time to discuss the book. But in addition to that, we've got Power Girl Special. Okay, right. Sorry.
Wait, what cover you got there, Sean?
Power Girl one?
Art Germ?
Probably, yeah. Looks like it. Yeah, it's an Art Germ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know an Art Germ cleavage when I see one.
I mean, you what you mean is a Power Girl drawing when you see it.
True. If we were doing Journey into Quistory, R.I.P., and you had to draw a character, I'm sure everyone could do a Power Girl. Yeah.
Would be too hard, exactly. We've got World Tree, number 2. The Rocketeer, number 1. Very interesting that we're reviewing that. And then the North Valley Grimoire, number 1. And I gotta show this, and I feel like such a dirtbag right now. Hold on, because I have this, and actually we have someone joining us now. Tyler, if you're ready for that.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, cool. So Marco is actually joining us, but I have this cover. This is the cover A for North Valley Grimoire, but I had to do it. I had to double dip because I needed the Sean Gordon Murphy variant as well. So I had to pick up both.
How much did that one cost? An actual rent deposit, or did you have to put anything on that?
No, $3.99.
Oh, okay.
$3.99.
This is Sean Murphy, so I wasn't sure.
Thank you, everybody. As the listeners had requested, I've made it. It's been a long time coming, but I'm back. We're back in it, baby, and I'm here interrupting Sean, as is the MO on this show.
Love it.
I love that he's switching absolutely right in between switching topics, almost like we planned it and we worked together behind the scenes.
That's kind of crazy. We would never take a peek behind the kimono, eh, Kale?
I mean, a gentleman would.
Not what I am.
We know.
By the way, quick hello to everybody that's watching us live. We appreciate you. Let's roll right into Amazing Spider-Man number 26. Now, I have to say this up front. No longer on this podcast will we be holding spoilers for the events in this issue. That is it. The embargo's up. That's it. We're done. So I'm going to turn the cover, and you guys will see the spoiler if you're watching live. And of course, we will say what happened. So if you don't want to hear, now's your out.
Where's my spoiler alert button? 1 second. Hold on.
Oh, see you, Marco.
There we go.
So here we go. So I am turning the cover, which you can see my fingerprints all over that black cover.
Don't murder anyone near that.
Yeah, I won't. Don't run that under a black light. But here we go as I unveil the cover that features Spider-Man and many other heroes. And the Spider-Man is holding the body of Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, who unfortunately has bit the dust in Amazing Spider-Man number 26.
What? Who's that variant by?
This variant,
is that Bagley?
I think it is, but I'm not 100% sure. Let me see if I can find a credit here. It's Gary Frank. That's why I got it.
What?
Duh, no shit. This is the Gary Frank variant. Yes. Yeah, and you can tell it's just so crisp. It's such a nice cover.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen Gary Frank do Spider-Man.
Looks good, huh?
He's been doing a decent amount of variants for Spider-Man. He did one for there was like a secret, not secret, Sinister Six variant he did recently that I used for some kind of social media thing.
I like the way the
he's
thing
been
looks.
popping up. Hey, thing ring, do your thing, right?
Hey, listen, it's Pride Month.
Whatever that means. So,
Wait, you don't know that? You guys
of
don't know
course-
that reference? Okay.
I didn't, but let's move on. Zeb Wells wrote it. John Romita on art. Scott Hanna and Marcio Menez on inks. Scott Hanna on inks, Marcio Menez and Eric Arcenega on colors, and Joe Caramagna on the letters. So this is a very, very, we keep calling it like soap opera. And it's very much that. It's a very this is sequential storytelling at its most sequential, right? Like this issue picks up like moments after 25, and it's just this big, I guess I should say it starts with Kamala Khan and her, getting in as a member of Oscorp, as an intern of Oscorp.
God, page
And
one, dude.
It's just like, come on. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you're trying to tie this all up, and it's like, no, I'm sorry, Zeb Wells. You don't get to do that. You don't get away with that.
Especially when we already know. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, I can't imagine, they knew that the spoiler was gonna, drop and everything was gonna happen, but just when that that's coming, it's so just like it just beat us over the head with it. Like,
Yeah.
Also, I love John Romita, but why does Kamala look 35 in that
Oh.
opening
Yeah, not
thing? It's like Romita
not
can only
great.
draw like adults. Oh, actually, that's it. I'm trying to think of like teens. No, not really. Children, definitely not.
You know what,
corpses.
Tyler?
Yeah.
It's like he maybe can't draw well.
No, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
We're not gonna do that.
Come
We've caught
on.
enough shit for your bad takes this week. We're not doing that.
We're
We're
about
not
to
doing
kick
that.
you
You're not
off
gonna.
again.
Yeah, you're not gonna discredit a legend.
I'm gonna
Not-
go
not-
with a
not like
3-man scene right now.
See you,
But
okay.
this issue is largely just like the battle. Like this is very much a big fight. They're trying to beat. I can never remember this guy's name. Rabin. Yeah. So they're just fighting Rabin, and this dude is, transforming and mutating. Like it's all over the place, which I actually had a lot of fun with. I do want to say I enjoyed this comic book. I'm going to put that out there right now. And if we're going to argue about it, let's do it now. Because I enjoyed this comic book. I have enjoyed Amazing Spider-Man the entire time. And despite the fact that I do not like that Miss Marvel is dead, and I don't like that she died in this comic book, I actually think that she died in a heroic way.
I mean, of course.
And I think her death made a lot of sense.
I will dispute that last bit you had there. But I feel like I would have enjoyed this comic if I wasn't so tired of it already. It's been 2 weeks dealing with the fallout of a comic I didn't get to read yet. And I think that really took the wind out of my sails for what this issue was. Like I have been with you, Sean, on this run. I've enjoyed this run so far. I think Paul cucking out Peter is hilarious. And I actually kind of enjoy Paul as a character. He's a weird wild card that I've not seen in Spider-Man in a while. Who even becomes more of a wild card in this when we get some actual Paul lore. But yeah, I was just like, all right, can we just get past this already? I'm tired of the discourse around this. Just like, oh, come on. I already smell this is just mandated so they can get to the next stage of Miss Marvel. I get it. It's fine. Let's get there. And then this issue happened. I'm like, all right, I don't even know when the last time she used her Mystique-like powers was. I don't even think
I didn't know she
that
could do that.
That might not have been used since her first appearance in Miss Marvel 1 when she becomes Carol Danvers by accident when she comes out of the cocoon.
Yeah, I think you're right.
which is kind of a wild thing to bring back as like a power set, even though it was written off as like, I don't know, like an anomaly of her powers. Yeah, it's fine. Let's want to keep going. Let's go to the next one. That's my take on it. I think she died heroically, Sean. I agree, but like, of course she did.
But that's fine.
I don't know about that. I mean,
mean-
heroes can go out like chumps.
If
This
they
coulda
made
sucked.
Miss Marvel go out like a chump, they would be the dumbest dum-dums on the history of the planet.
I mean, I think they are. I don't. I do think it was a heroic death, but I think it was. I think she got chumped. You know, I think Sean says it all the time. She got jobbed.
Yeah.
And I otherwise, like, to be honest, like, I wasn't following the Paul stuff. I didn't understand any of it, but I think the actual turn and the reveal, like, had I not known what was coming, I genuinely was surprised that it happened.
Yeah.
So, like, as far as like the story and the comic book, it's perfectly competent. Like, I think it does what it does really well. The problem is what they do.
I kind of agree with you, Cal. I think this functions well. Like, this as an issue functions well, and I've been very far removed from this series. So I came in as, let's say I'm just picking this up, and let's say I'm reading it for what it is, as the book that it is, and I think it all plugs in. It all, checks out the boxes. It does what it needs to do, and I think on Zeb Wells' part, that's commendable. Following the sort of drama around it, because I knew this was coming, the twist sort of lost its impact for me. I think Agree would have been more surprised if I didn't know and this had just happened. Like, once I knew it was going to happen, I was just kind of like looking for it. And once you see Mary Jane get stabbed, I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that she had transformation powers. But I'm like, surely she did some sort of swap, or there's a thing going on. And like, I saw it happen, and I saw the machinations and the thinking being done. And that part frustrates me sometimes, because I want the suspense, and I want that twist to really like feel and connect with me. And I don't think that it did, but only because I knew what was going on, and because they announced it and they wanted people to know. So I think in that sense, if I've been following the series, I'd feel similar to Tyler, where all right, I knew this was coming. Let's just go to the next issue, because I'm ready to see the next, what happens next at the very least. But coming in fresh, this worked. It wasn't revelatory. It was just a solid comic continuing a story.
There was a bit that I want to point out that I thought was good. For all the people complaining about the previous issues with his interaction with the Fantastic Four, and how Peter, like, he just starts punching everyone and nobody listens to him. Like, Zeb knows what he's doing. Like, in this issue, he shows, like, Reed is like, no, I'm with you. I understand. Let's help. Let's not fight. And, like, that's not, people are gonna be like, oh, that's a response to the backlash. That's not how comic book writing works. This was a plan, and I think he knew that. So that was nice to see that interaction be like a little more typical for Spider-Man Fantastic Four interaction.
Yeah, but you're right in principle that obviously this was planned.
Yeah,
but I still think all of that was wildly out of character, and it's more in character for Reed to be the adult in the room to go, nah, it's cool, I get it. But Peter's past that.
So, this issue pays off a lot of things, because there were a lot of questions coming into this. Like, if you remove the who will die part, because I don't even think Marvel should have necessarily marketed it that way, but
Yeah.
putting that aside, if you put that aside, we learn the origin of Paul and what's going on with that dude, which we needed to know. And I'm glad that I'm glad that didn't linger. Like, I'm glad that we got an answer in this comic book, and now the next phase of this book can be, well, okay, now that Mary Jane knows who Paul really is, and she's known, right? She has known, but their kids have been the through line. And that's what allowed them to really fall in love, because they saw each other as parents and they had a shared mission. Now they don't. So how does their relationship withstand the loss of the children, the death of Miss Marvel because of them, in a sense, and all these different things and factors? I think that's really compelling to me. I want to know what's going to happen. I'm into it. That has nothing to do with Spider-Man.
And he says that as much, right? Like Rabin, when he's doing the spell, like chains you held close to your heart, chains that have served their purpose. Like that's it. Like these were functional characters, but then I got a little confused because is Paul also like a manifestation that can just vanish? Because if they are children and they say this is part of his emissary line, like did she not actually give birth?
She never. That was never
you missed that
a
issue,
part of the story. Yeah, it was never the idea that those were really her and Paul's children.
Yeah, Mark,
those are children that they found, and they decided that they needed a rescue because they're kids, and that was Robin's plan the whole time.
So they were never real then. They were symbols. They were another one of his magic tricks with the symbology, I'm guessing. That's how I read this issue.
Right.
I just think of the Michael Jordan "fuck them kids" meme.
I also love that Paul is not like a human person, at least in terms of like he wasn't naturally born or whatever. But he just has his name's just Paul. Like, like that's the given name. He's
like Paul Rabin, right? Isn't like that is
Paul Jeremiah Rabin?
Man, he's Mormon, isn't he? That dude's Mormon.
Jeremiah.
He's in the Mormon CU. That's the universe he's in.
Oh man, I love it. And then, the drama and tension was also really high in this issue. And I think Zeb Wells did a really good job of ratcheting up the tension throughout the series to where this issue is where we're at our highest point. And there really aren't any times where Zeb Wells pumps the brakes. The only scene that kind of does that, and I was questioning, was actually the scene that Tyler brought up before, where we see the Fantastic Four and there's a conversation where they're like, it's all good. And it's like, okay, cool. I'm glad we had this talk, but there's also this mechanical dragon that's killing people right now in this moment. So maybe we should cut the chapter. That bothered me. But outside of that, this book stays right on target. And I loved all that. Go ahead.
I think the pacing was done well. The only moment where I thought, and again, I haven't read the past stuff here, but coming in fresh, that first page, I'm just like, you're telling me, like, are you introducing me because this is where we're finally seeing Kamala come in, and again, knowing what's going to happen. But yeah, I think agreed. That was the only piece that was, from a pacing standpoint, a bit of like a laggard, and even then it was a page. But otherwise, this was straight to the point. You get from point A to point B, and I'm sure that if you'd been again following, there'd be more of an emotional payoff there.
Let's talk a little bit about Mary Jane, because I also, I'm a hater of supporting characters getting powers in general. I really don't like that trope. And I was down on Mary Jane as Jackpot. However, in this issue, the fact that she gets to legitimately kick some ass was awesome. I did like that. When everything's revealed to her and she just goes, "I'm going to kill you." And then she says, "I'm going to kill you." And she starts using her powers, and you can see the tears. And I really think Ramita nailed this moment. You could, the close up on her eye, you see the tears and the powers, kind of manifesting. And then she just blasts him. I thought that all that was fantastic. And props, I feel, to Ramita for delivering on that moment as well.
I like how her power set is just the rolled bones talent for Warcraft rogues.
Hell yeah, dude.
Like that's
Yup.
exactly what it is. I think it's cool, and I like that
100%.
she has a different kind of agency now. She's always had agency, I think, in terms of like female characters that are like always tied to a male character. I feel like Mary Jane's always been one of the stronger ones who can stand on her own. And this kind of evolves her agency a bit, which I enjoyed. And I just think it leads to like a writer being able to do whatever the hell they want with their powers. Like at one point, didn't she shoot cotton candy out of her powers? I think that was in Dark Web or something like that.
Oh yeah,
like,
that's right. Yeah.
It's just wacky. I like wacky shit like that.
Overall, I think there's a conversation to be had about the marketing of this event, or rather of this issue and this arc. I think that people are there's also a conversation to be had about people attaching way too much moral value to what happens to comic book characters, because there are people saying that they're shattered and they're betrayed by comic books and they keep killing women, and it's like, okay, no, I'm sorry, male characters, women characters, everybody dies, and that has to be okay. I'm not saying that the way they handled Miss Marvel's death is good and that can be evaluated, but I don't think it's this unforgivable sin that Marvel has committed by choosing to kill a character. If they can kill Spider-Man, or if they can kill Iron Man, or if they can kill Cap, they can 150% kill Miss Marvel. That has to be okay. And if it's not okay for you that can happen, you probably should not read comics, because that's how comic books are. And I don't think that that's inherently wrong. If Batman can die, then Miss Marvel can die. 100%. If only Miss Marvel could die, but Batman could not die, then we'd have a serious problem.
It's not equitable.
And I always think my three rules here: get some friends, touch some grass, go to therapy. Like if that's a life-changing event for you, do those, those three things.
Let me tell you from experience, Tyler, it doesn't always work.
Right.
Wow. Paul, this was my book of the week. I think we'll get back to that, but certainly a poll. I really enjoyed this a lot. I think Zeb Wells and Romita Jr. deserve credit for not just giving us a big shock, but packaging it in what I thought was a pretty good issue on a run that's been solid overall.
I say pull, yeah. Especially all you speculators out there, pull this book. She's permanently dead. She's never coming back, I swear.
Pass. I don't give a shit. I think it's competently done. If you want a Spider-Man book, there's better.
Currently, I'm not sure about that, but yeah.
This was competently done, so pull.
Man, bar is low for Marco.
Hey, man. I mean, like, if it works as a comic, it works as a comic. I can't knock it.
If I can read it.
Top Lane said, I think it's more about her being irrelevant at the moment. Like, Marvel can afford to kill her in another character's book. So I'm glad you said that, because Marvel and DC both, and you can look at this and it's traceable as far back as 2007, 2008, during the Batman RIP. If you look at Batman RIP and the publishing schedule of that juxtaposed with the release of The Dark Knight, you might be surprised. Marvel does this and DC do this non-stop. Right before a character is going to come out and have their big movie or explosion, they die, because then they get the opportunity to bring them back to an audience that's waiting for them with a clean slate. They just did that with Doctor Strange. So I don't think that it's because they think she's irrelevant. I think it's because they want to make her more relevant. So for the character, this is a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's the way this happened.
That's my only quibble. Yes,
that's dumb. I've seen arguments about bridging and the character being the only minority character in the white people book that dies. And I haven't looked into that too far, but I do think this stinks. But yeah, I think ultimately I agree. She's a superhero. Like
white people book. Norman Osborn's in this.
Shut up.
Willem Dafoe's the whitest white person.
Well, I agree with Tyler. They didn't even wave check him in this issue. Like, where was that?
I don't trust Ramita.
Wave check him.
I don't think you think Ramita's wearing a do-rag to like get reference photos out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I take Kale's call on this one.
Oh man. Oh, that's so funny. Wow. All right. Well, we're gonna roll right along just as this book will. I'm sure it will be fine. I can't wait to see what they do next.
Doc Ock
Yes,
next issue.
that's
love
gonna be
Doc
fun. If you want to know what we're up to and what we've got cooking and what we've got coming next, this Saturday, Rom V on the main show, 10:15 a.m. Eastern. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about all of Rom V's books, and asking him a lot of deep questions because Rom V's got a good old noggin in the head of his. So we should be able to have a good talk. Patreon.com/thecomics-pals is the best way to support the show. It puts some shekels in our pocket and it enables us to, continue to do what we love and what you guys seem to enjoy. So, if we're up your alley, then head on over to patreon.com/thecomics-pals and, check it out. Let us know what you think about what we're offering over there. Palling around, for those of you who are already on our Patreon or are considering it, we just dropped a new episode. So
Tuesday.
We talked about the internet. We talked about how it's affected our lives and things like that. So
Very interesting discussion, honestly, because I thought I was like very online, and comparatively, Sean and Kale maybe a little bit more.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I have.
I think the three of us kept up with each other pretty well. A lot of times I don't always feel like I contribute anything real good in the palling arounds, but this one I think I got a pretty choice story.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk Power Girl Special #1. This was one of two books that came out of the book club poll. We had a tie again, and we said, you know what? Let's just read them both. So this one, of course, written by Leah Williams, with art and colors by Marguerite Sauvage. So I always bungle her name. I don't know why.
Marguerite Sauvage.
Sauvage. Thank you. What a cool name. Like, what? You could just be Savage, right? But you're Sauvage.
Like the difference between chandelier and chandelier.
Well, the difference is how much you paid for it.
French? Do you know?
Is she French?
Anybody know? Is she French?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably. Okay. I don't know. Marisa Louise also joined her on colors for this story. So this was a hefty Power Girl story. $7 comic. So, well, probably because of the cover I got. It's probably less. In any event, I have not enjoyed the Power Girl stories that we've gotten at all in this new regime, the Leah Williams stuff. I have not really cared for them much. This was the first issue that really knocked me off my feet and made me take a second look and go, oh, actually, I think Leah Williams is onto something. I thought this was quite space. Sorry?
All she needed was some space to tell a story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was a fan of the backups, but they felt out of place for where they were.
Yeah.
I like this as a standalone. Yeah. I really like Marguerite Sauvage art. There's nothing like it out there currently that I can talk about. But yeah, so yeah, I had fun with this.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed this.
Unexpectedly. I think I was a bit more in line with you, Sean, where like I might have been more hit or miss on the backstories, but this was fun. I love the opening. Just drama and like over the top commercial vibes, and you get put into like this just hyper pop world. A lot of fun.
I laughed out loud at that page because it's like Margot said, like a commercial for a fragrance, and it ends with sorrow because you don't need a face to turn heads. And Johnny Sorrow doesn't have a face, so just a cute little page. I'm sure that's something that Leah Williams was like, this is so good. We need to do it. Like, it doesn't really, it doesn't have anything to do. I mean, it has something to do with the rest of the issue, but you don't need it there.
Yeah.
But I love it as a pace setter. Because as soon as you see that, you know something is wrong. Because what the fuck is this?
Mm-hmm.
It almost felt like those Watchmen interludes with the commercials.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right.
I'm unfamiliar with Johnny Sorrow. Kale, this is a JSA character? Yep. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. I don't. She must have been working overtime to pull that one out of.
Yeah, I didn't know who that villain was
He's cool, dude.
coming into this, but this is one of those where it didn't matter. Like, it didn't matter if you had a familiarity or not. He's doing what he's doing, and they're just in this, and they got to deal with it. Yep. And I thought that was really smart on Leah Williams. She didn't bog this issue down in anybody's particular backstory, even Power Girls. Like, it uses her history, but it uses it in a way that's like the current crisis relates to her past in the sense that she might not be mentally strong enough to overcome this problem. She might succumb to Johnny Sorrow, and she has to develop the mental fortitude to deal with this by accepting herself. And I thought that was really, really, really smart. And Leah Williams got so deep in it that I was like, how much of this is her story? You know, like, how much of herself did she put into this? This was so good.
It's a good point, Sean, because I do like how it takes all of her backstory, which is a lot. It's convoluted. It spans multiple multiverses and crises. But instead of making that plot backstory, it's emotional backstory.
Yeah.
So what happens doesn't really matter as much as what it caused Power Girl to deal with emotionally. And I liked that. I thought it was a very, very smart way of kind of taking that kind of history, but also contextualizing it in a more modern way.
And to that point, like, she even condenses towards the end where it's like, oh yeah, I'm just a clone of this person. Well, it's like, okay, like, do I need to know the reasons? Sure, maybe I'd want to, but I think the more important part is, like, why should I care about why and how that affects her? And I think that was really, really done. That was done really, really well, where, like, oh, you're a clone of this person and you don't feel good about yourself. Easy. I got that. I'm not a clone, but I get it. I get sad about myself.
You sure about that?
I might be a robot, but you know.
Well, when you come off an assembly line, it's pretty easy to feel like you're a clone, Marco.
Don't call my mother an assembly line.
Moving right along.
Oh.
I have never cared about Power Girl before this comic book because Leah Williams was able to tap into the part of this character that's like that just has self-esteem issues, and they're warranted and they're justified. But anyone, regardless of your sex or anything like that, can relate to this character, and what she's enduring here. And I was like, man, imagine what it would feel like to be under the purview of Superman, but feel so unworthy of being, considered like being in the super family or whatever, and feeling ostracized from that. Like, how much of a shit do you have to be to not feel like you're able to be welcome in Clark Kent's home or as part of his family? Like, obviously that's in her head.
That's most Superman sidekick stories, though. Like, all of them have had to deal with that. Supergirl's had to deal with that. Connor's had to deal with that. John's always having to deal with that.
Like, living up to Superman?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just meant, like, she's not just not worthy, she's not good.
I think that's the unique spin here. It's that, for example, Connor's whole thing is that he's a clone of Superman and Lex Luthor, right? So he has to go through a whole identity crisis to prove his worth and that he's good as well. But Power Girl here has the unique situation of she is not part of this family at all, but they want her. And that's, to your point, like, that's unique and good and powerful. Like I really liked what Supergirl wrote about her in her diary. I thought that was a really good twist
Hmm.
on
Yeah.
on what Power Girl would think.
And that beat, like those series of 3 panels, so good, where she picks up the book and it's just like Power Girl is a lesser version of me. That's how she tosses it. And we're like, oh damn, but we don't, but she's not gonna know. Surely it was gonna be something good. And then she comes back to it, and like just that series of panels, that page is just excellent.
I had to grit my teeth at the contrivance of her discovering those pages, but that aside, it was good stuff.
She just reads super fast, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And let's shift gears and talk about the art, because I thought the art was great.
Yeah.
Savage has done a lot of stuff that I've enjoyed, and I think we've all enjoyed, and she's very talented, and that's on display here fully. I really love the panel choices. I thought that by and large they were excellent, and you get pages. I'm gonna just show off. This is literally a random page that I just flipped to, but I love this page because there's so much going on, and I feel like she was able to fit a lot into. I mean, there's a lot of panels, but if you look at the different kinds of panels here, I feel like this whole book is full of interesting page layouts. And, you know, not to denigrate Ramita, but the last book we just read, comparatively very simple layouts. And so there's nothing wrong with that. I like simple layouts, but I also like it when, you know, an artist is doing something a little bit different. And this book calls for that because of the environment that they're in. And so she does do things that are interesting and a little bit unique. So I had fun with that.
I especially like the coloring of it. The coloring is great.
Yeah.
There's certain colors, like it's a very ethereal color palette. A lot of like whites and grays and light blues. But then it helps the reds of Power Girl and the Super Family like just pop. The red of Johnny Sorrow, his mask, just pops. Even Omen's green, it's completely separate from the rest of the color palette. So whenever Omen's on screen, that pops as well. Page. So I think that I really like that choice of it too. It really draws your eye to purposefully into certain parts of the book.
Yeah, hard agree. That was a standout for me.
That being said, I do have a criticism in that this might be my least favorite version of Superman that I've ever seen.
That splash.
The face, there's just something really wrong. He looks fake. I thought it was not really him when he first came on the page, because the way the lines are in his face just make him look almost like a robot or something like that. Like it just doesn't look real.
Like a red tornado in a costume.
I had a big problem with that, but it's the only character whose face looked off to me. So I don't know what happened there.
I had a problem with some of her faces, and especially a lot of the shadows and lines on people's faces, especially when they were doing something that wasn't like a standard face. Like if she furrowed her brow or whatever, there was a real deep like discoloring in the middle of her forehead that was just weird.
Yeah. Overall, awesome.
Nice to see Earth 2 Superman again as well.
What do you mean?
In the when she does like the reality plunge into the bathroom mirror, and you see like Superman from Infinite Crisis there and Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Okay. Any thoughts on the backup story?
Yeah, I was not a fan of that.
Oh God,
no. This would have been my pick of the week if it weren't for the backup. The backup literally annoyed me.
I completely forgot about the backup. This was gonna be my pick of the week. No, this is still my pick of the week. The Power Girl stuff is still my pick of the week. The Fire and Ice stuff can fuck off.
I like the art. Nice cartoony.
I did too. Yeah, I opened the book and I was like, oh, it was like feels like Erica Henderson almost. I was into it.
It was fun, but the story itself, yeah, not go away.
The characterization for all four major characters, Guy, Fire, Ice, and Superman, felt like almost like I was reading a Golden Books version of the characters.
Yeah.
Where it was like, all right, I need to take the bare essence of who they are and dumb it down entirely. It just felt out of place for the book, really. It felt like I was reading Tiny Titans or something.
Yeah, just not it for me. I already didn't care to read that book or to read their stories, just because, quite frankly, the fact that this version of Ice is not the exact same as Strange Adventures, I want no part of it. And that's something that
Human Target.
I'm sorry, Human Target, yeah. I want no part of it. Either I'm getting that version or I don't care about the character. Why would you? I don't want to go on a whole rant. Anyways,
she went from grizzled femme fatale to Discord kitten,
bubbly,
Yeah.
It was just weird. But pull on the book overall, I think it's fantastic.
I agree, yeah.
Now I cannot wait for Leah Williams' full run on Power Girl.
Me too. I'm kind of excited for a Power Girl book. It's new words for me.
Yeah. Book of the week.
Marco?
I'm gonna pull, but not my book of the week. But
Fair
great.
enough.
Okay.
Well, maybe it's World Tree. World Tree number 2. James Tinian on the words, Fernando Blanco on the art, colors by Jordi Belair, letters by Aditya Bidikar. And I think we were a little bit mixed on this one last time. I was really high on it. And I got to say, this one was more of a mixed bag for me. I like what James Tinian is trying to do. And so this issue features not too many scenes, but a lot of talking. And it's a lot of two characters having a conversation that's supposed to feel very off the cuff. It reminds me of like an excuse that like don't get caught up in the name, but it reminds me of like Tarantino, right? Like where in a Tarantino movie, like two characters might be having like a really long, decompressed conversation that's ultimately not about what's happening in the moment. But if you really think about it, maybe it kind of is.
Feels like a West Wing walk and talk sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah. It's not an uncommon thing. But I think, at least in this case, while I sort of got a chuckle out of it with the FBI agents or whatever they were, I didn't think it was worth the page space. It was 3 pages of that conversation, and yeah, it gave me an idea of who these characters are to some degree, but I actually felt like we could have done something else, especially in an issue that features yet another scene where 2 people are talking a lot that, again, doesn't go anywhere. Now, that scene I think is better because of the fear, the character and the emotion that the scene is generating, but because both of those happen in the same comic book, it was overkill to me.
When you were saying like, 2 characters talking for a long amount of pages, I'm like, which one? Which one are you talking about?
Right. It was just too much.
Are you saying you like the dating conversation with the 2 people at the house?
I'm sorry, I could have explained that better. The scene with because there were actually multiple scenes with 2 people talking, but the one in which the one person's in the house looking over the destruction that happened, all the murder, and they're on the phone with someone.
That was tremendous. Yeah,
that was that was a great. Yeah. But the other talky scenes that we got, I felt like they were just overkill. It's too much.
I feel like I've gotten used to that being sort of Tinian's bag. Like he'll have these moments where 2 people will have a conversation and we're just supposed to like take in the moment. So I didn't feel like it bogged me down too much. I had to do a little catch up because I didn't read the first one, but I think I didn't mind the conversation. I like how Tinian is able to build a scene, is able to set up a scene, and I think the art does a really good job of just keeping me on pace. It flows really well. I think there are definitely moments where the panel layouts are just these 4x3s, and I think that's conducive to having a book where you get a lot of speaking, because you're taking it moment to moment to moment, as opposed to like sometimes you'll have these larger panels and then like multi bubbles. I don't always like that because that feels like it slows it down for me. So I thought this was paced out well enough, thanks in large part to the art.
I will say Tinian has a good voice for just conversation. Because I agree, it was used 3 times in this, Sean. I guess if you count the phone call. So it's maybe a little overused, but they sound like real people, which I think is honestly impressive a lot of the times in comic books. You don't really get that, but it was a little like, all right, I kind of want to know what's going on. Especially since what is happening in this book is very obtuse. Like like I felt there wasn't even like a delay between issue 1 and 2, right? Like this is relatively normal, besides the printing issue. In fact, that would be less of a delay then, because it'd be less of a window. But I did have a little trouble remembering what happened in the first one, to be honest.
Likewise.
Yep.
And that's because, or at least in my opinion, that's because nothing has really happened yet. And that's something that happened with Nice House on the Lake as well, where in the early beginnings of a series, this is just my theory, you're going to remember what happened and why it matters more than the people that it happened to, because we don't know these people. We're just learning about these people. So if something big happens, it's like, oh shit, yeah, that's right, that happened. Coming into this, I was like, wait, who are the main characters? Who are we following? What's going on? Like, I couldn't orient myself around anything, and that was something that consistently was an issue for me with Nice House.
Yeah, with this book, even in the first issue, it's hard to know who you're following, because the only remarkable character is the naked woman going around killing people.
Yeah, and I think Tinian is aware of that, and so he employed a strategy whereby whenever Fear was in a scene, her name appeared in the beginning of the scene. And then he did the same thing in the next scene with Silk, where we saw the name Silk appear on the screen when the 2 agents are speaking. Liam appears on the screen in the next sequence. So he's telling us by putting their name on the page who these people are, who the primary person is in a given scene, which I think is smart. And I think that's a lesson learned from Nice House, which definitely had a problem with that.
Yeah, you couldn't do that in Nice House because of the narration mechanic that he used, the device. Yeah. So I appreciate that in this.
Well, and that's what those symbols were supposed to be too.
But yeah.
Right.
Identifiers. Those are so opaque that it just didn't work.
Yeah. I like the fact though that it, once again, and why I'm on the hook is that the concept here is different. The scene where the girl gets on the computer and she logs into the undernet and she's just cooked.
Yeah.
Like that was crazy. And I don't even know, like, what is that? I can't relate to that. I don't know what that feels like. There's nothing to see.
When I found internet porn for the first time.
But like when you think about horror, you think about like Freddy or Jason coming at you with something to kill you with, right?
Yeah,
and you can
just it's just I get you. All right.
I've seen some things on the internet that might make me lose it, but
she logged on to eFucked. eBombs World, Rotten.com. Let's just name them all. Yeah.
You log into eBombs World and that's what happens to you.
Homestarwater.net.
If you like this stuff, guys, check out the Patreon. It's literally what we talk about for an hour.
Oh my god, no! You got to look at this.
That's me finding a LimeWire download of One Night in Paris. Marco, you getting any of this?
I know you always world.
Okay, all right.
Oh my god, dude!
Gentle boy.
That reminds me of when I saw that that video, that 2 girls, 1 cup, that was me.
Oh,
No.
That was me.
Oh my God! Somebody
So-
in chat
so
just
we-
mentioned it.
We joke about this, but I think this is what Tinian's actually trying to say. Like
150%.
that, like the
100%.
internet messed up an entire generation of people. Where like this is funny to joke about now. A guy sitting on a glass mason jar and then it cracks in his ass. That's funny to us, you know. Mr. Hands, hilarious.
Wow. Yeah. Now,
Marco.
but who knows
Marco.
the degree to which we're all traumatized and warped
right?
by those
Right?
things,
Yeah, this
which
is
I guess is what he's saying.
The next step of it.
Oh man.
Yeah, just to pull it back. I agree with you. Girlfriend got cooked, but how long is that gonna work in the similar vein to Nice House? You know, how long are you
Forever.
gonna be?
Yeah. How many people are going to accidentally log into stuff? I
Yeah.
work IT. I can tell you, happens a lot.
Gonna happen twice.
Don't
next
leave a terminal open. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man. Wow. I'm just gonna say, Paul, this book's awesome still. I don't think it was as good as the first one, but I'm still into it. I like it.
It's a pull for me. Yeah. Also, if you're built like Fear, hit me up. Shoot my shot out there.
Just quickly, I also wanted to shout out the colors in this. Jordi Belair, it really seems like she's doing something interesting with the colors. And I don't have, much to go on yet as to what it all is, but the differences in between the reds and the blues is, very clearly something very interesting.
And
Right.
Sorry, and she's consistent in setting, because there are moments where like the dark stuff, it's all clouded in this same kind of like muted tones. Usually at the beginning, it's inside the house, all browns. Towards the end, where we're seeing the 2 people talk, it's this like muted blue, but there's less contrast, because you would think, oh, I'm carrying like a red gasoline bucket, and that would have more contrast because it's in red as opposed to but then you're in this darker setting. So I don't know, it's a lot of just like consistency in muting tone across the book.
Yeah, the scene I think visually that I like the most, outside of the the hilarious stuff we just talked about, is in the scene where the 2 agents are speaking, the way that first of all the camera angle that's chosen for the first and second pages of that, more so the second one, where it's that top down angle. I really like that. I thought that was a great choice. It's sort of an establishing, it's not an establishing shot, I guess, but it establishes that they're in an environment where something has happened and they need to cross the do not cross line, which I thought that was put together well. But the coloring in that sequence, where they're bathed in that like orangey-ish muted sort of color, I really enjoyed that. I thought that was great. Great book all around. This is good stuff.
Yeah, Paul.
All right, let's get into the Rocketeer. I have been waiting to read a Rocketeer comic book for a really long time. I just didn't know my way in.
For you.
Tyler, we can't hear you.
Oh yeah, I'm unmuted now. I was muted.
Oh, okay. Were you trying to say something that you
I was
wanted?
just saying I got recommendations if you want some. Cargo of
Okay.
Doom.
Really?
Mark Waid, Chris Somney.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So this features 3 different Rocketeer stories. Danny Bilson and Paul DeMeo wrote the first one, with art by Adam Hughes, letters by Karen L. Bates. Never have I read a Rocketeer story in my entire life, and I'm going to tell you guys right now that I thought this was awesome.
Yes.
I really, really liked this.
I was worried you weren't gonna like it, just because like the time setting, it feels Sandman, like OG Sandman-esque. It's just like a bit more retro.
Nah, this was cool. I like the idea of heroes who are, they're not really like involved in this whole big universe of other heroes, and they have this huge power. There's a dude with what's the word? I'm looking
Jetpack.
for? With a jetpack.
Yeah.
That's it. Wow.
Jetpack and a helmet. Yep.
Yeah. I love that. And he's not saving the world. He's just like beating up thieves and things like that.
Yeah.
Dude, I love the Rocketeer.
With his jetpack.
Yeah.
What's wild for me is I love the Rocketeer. Never seen the movie.
Me neither.
I heard it wasn't great.
It's no, it is, but
Oh,
it's
yeah?
been years for me. Yeah.
I love just pulpy. Like this
Yeah.
is like what I imagine. Like a Doc Savage is like. It feels like the Shadow a bit. It all feels like it could be in that new wave, Sean. That era
First,
of DC.
first wave. Yeah.
First wave. Yeah. And the Rocketeer is like one of the most iconic characters that kind of fits that mold.
Yeah.
And you put Adam Hughes on art, and it's not a bombastic story. It's a very small story about friendship, really. That Hughes won.
I loved it.
But I just love how like Adam Hughes just does whatever he wants now. It's just like, all right, I'm gonna do a guest appearance on this. I'm gonna draw a couple pages in this one. I mean, this was my pick of the week, honestly. Nice,
Same.
a good, fun, wholesome one shot.
And the art, I think, across all three fit very, very well. Like I don't think there was a mismatch across any of it. Hughes, I've seen little of, but I like after seeing this, damn, this is the kind of stuff you want on like a classic, like a Sandman, like a Shade or something. Like this was a lot of fun to just read through, to see, and the stories were just that, a few pages, and I'm happy. I'm sated.
Yeah.
I like the whole like I'm like an Indiana Jones fan, so like I mean we'll talk about the second story, but like this scratches my itch, and I think that second, once you get the turn of the second story of what happens and what it's really about, I was like, oh shit, there we go.
That was
That's
cool
good.
as shit.
Yeah.
I never really heard of Amelia Earhart before.
Really?
So it was pretty cool. I don't know why you guys are looking at me like that. It was pretty cool to
like
see
American
her
hero.
story. I don't care. It was pretty cool to see her story through the eyes of someone else who was just her friend. And she's this huge, like, important person in the world, but she's just a pilot. And at the end of the day, that's all she wants to do. And his search for her, you know, he never stops to answer or to ask the question, does she want to be found? And for whatever reason, that's what this book left me with. Like, hey, maybe she's off having another adventure. Maybe she's doing something cool. Who knows? Leave her alone. That's not for you. What was for him was the short relationship, friendship that they got to have, and that gets to be beautiful without it going any further. Who knows what she's doing?
And of
I
course,
thought that was interesting.
Yeah, for that time period too, it's great to see like just like a non-romantic. Honestly, like it was almost like a mentorship because she was much older than him when he was a kid. It was more of a like a little boy looking up to this huge female role model. It was great. Sean, Amelia Earhart, actual person who I believe flew into the Bermuda Triangle. Great conspiracies there if you want to delve into that.
Very good conspiracies. That's why I was surprised you didn't hear.
That's why I was surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, they referenced that in the book, and I was like, "Oh, huh, cool.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I might have to learn more about this." So that's kind of interesting.
Good Doctor Who episode she's in too.
Oh, really? I love how everyone's so surprised that I don't know Amelia Earhart.
You're the conspiracy guy, so I thought like
Well, and not even just the conspiracy angle of it, but like it was a massive thing, you know, in the 30s when it happened. So much so.
We're not as old as you now.
Well, but I mean, let me get through the fucking sentence. Like every pop culture item has referenced it for 70 years since. Like it's massive.
Not to me.
We're not talking Charles Lindbergh here, you know?
Hey man, listen. I'm black. I have different heroes than you.
Give me that one.
Talk to me about Frank Lucas, okay? Anyway, the second story.
And I only know Amelia Earhart.
My ass is like Frank Lucas, the kid from Earthbound.
No, Frank Lucas, very famous drug dealer, the subject of the American Gangster movie. Keep up.
Oh,
I'm just kidding. So the second story was the one that Tyler really liked.
yeah. Well, no, that wasn't even my favorite story of the bunch, but I did like it because it kind of plays with like having Indiana Jones cameo in it, even though they can't do it. But they use silhouettes and they don't name him and they change his hair color. But it was like, all right, cool. It's cool to see as close to those two interacting as we can get. Even though I think Disney did do the Rocketeer movie and they own Indiana Jones, so like maybe. But
I thought it was kind of dumb.
Damn, hot take, Hale.
It just didn't do anything for me. And I think it's because it was so short.
sure, yeah.
And they had to kind of dance around it. I just like, that's not an Indiana Jones story that I want.
It was
I
fun.
thought it was fun.
Yeah. I also
Jinx.
like how Sean, who was the artist on the second one?
Oh, the second one was Craig Cermak, and it was written, by the way, by Kelvin Mao with colors by Laura Martin. Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. I liked
Laura
how the
Martin.
punching in it felt so like sock, like it felt very much Batman animated series whenever he punched anyone. Like it had like a weird motion to it that felt very classic, just fisticuffs sort of thing. And I don't know how to describe how they managed to pull that off. I just noticed it.
It was a lot of onomatopoeia, like the
They
jab,
were,
the
yeah.
claps, the even when the police officer's sleeping, bam, clang, smash, right? And he like wakes up, what's going on? And like that was used incredibly well. So it was fun, dude.
Yeah, this was great. I also, so speaking of things I didn't know that this character who Rocketeer is in love with, his love interest, is inspired by Betty Page. I mean, she looks like Betty Page, but I was shocked at the fact that that you could just use her likeness in this. I thought she was only for Dynamite or whatever.
Well, the creation of the Rocketeer and this character would have been well before Dynamite had the license.
When did Rocketeer come out?
I think it was
Probably
created in the 80s.
Well, in the back it says there was a whole story about Betty and the creator Dave Stevens, and it says he started creating in 75. In 82,
82. Yep.
The Rocketeer debuted. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Kale, what's that one series? Rocky record, The Escapist. It feels like that vibe of very noir, very pulp, and I had no idea that he was like older in terms of 1982, because The Escapist is also relatively like in the 2000s, 90s, and has that same aesthetic.
Well, The Escapist would be noir pulp. The Rocketeer straight pulp.
Yeah,
The Rocketeer might as well be. Oh, thank you. Yeah, big opinions on the Rocketeer in this house. What is going on?
Shout out Jay Lee. That like
don't
4-pager
shout
he
out
did.
Jay Lee. Stop it.
Hey, shut up.
What?
Kale, you got to admit that was some good Jay Lee.
I'll fight all three of you.
Dude, we can scuffle because you cannot sit here and tell me that Jay Lee's art in this comic book wasn't phenomenal.
It was so good, and it was weird.
He
'cause
fought
it's
a
like,
plane.
Yeah, it was like light and like it was in the daytime. It wasn't some weird horror mystical shit. It was like, oh, I'm gonna do some somewhat wholesome art, and I was like, oh
But
yeah, Jay Lee's got it.
It still had that Jay Lee feel to it.
Sure, sure. Like
As
like
it should.
Like you
Right.
might have microdosed a little bit,
Yeah.
Oh, so
Perfect.
good.
Wow, I didn't know we had a hater in our midst.
He's been a vocal hater.
Dog.
Oh,
Dog.
yeah.
I-
Even I
I've
did
been that was the first opinion I had about comic books was I do not like Jay Lee.
came out of the
Wow.
womb that way.
Shoot.
Fucking 6 years old going, I hate this guy. Everybody looks like a raisin.
Wow. Slander.
Specifically the California
Robert-
raisin.
Robert Wyndham wrote that last story. We mentioned Jay Lee already on the art. Colors by
Robert.
June Chung and letters by Crank. It's a
Jason
simple
Statham
story.
movie.
There's not
Great
really a
movie.
lot to. Sorry?
Great movie by Jason Statham with Jason Statham in it.
Never saw it. It's a very, very simple story, not Crank, the comic, the Rocketeer story here. But the art is really the showcase of this one, and it's, I mean, if you like Jay Lee, I was really, really happy to see that he was here. I didn't buy this knowing that I would get to see Jay Lee art, but I was happy I did.
Yo, I want these pages. Like, this shit was good.
Hell yeah. Love it. Easy pull. I really went between all the books we've talked about so far as my pick of the week. Honestly, I thought they were all really high quality. So,
Yep, pull easy.
buy
pull.
the Rocketeer. Buy it. Why not?
I honestly, my one knock on this was that it's a one shot. I was like, I'm okay with like an anthology. Like, just give me like a couple more of these. Like,
Yeah, I wanna go
stories that
back.
just do little things.
Make them bigger too.
Yeah.
Like physically bigger.
More pages.
Oh,
Or physically bigger. I mean, make the art bigger. Fuck it.
Give me all artist edition size books. Actually, I was making a joke, but
So let's talk about the North Valley Grimoire #1. Now, we had a little bit of an issue. So the rest of the guys were actually not able to get this. I guess it was only available physically, and I picked it up, but they weren't able to get it.
Yeah.
So I will be speaking about it. As I drop the comic.
great start.
yeah. So it's a whatnot publishing thing. So like, it kind of makes sense that it's physical only.
Nah, cater to me, dude. I'm a comics reader. Come on, we're in 2023.
I mean, I don't disagree. But let's talk. I mean, I guess we'll talk about the issues of that after Sean tells us if it was good.
Well, you know, since you guys can't talk about the book, I thought I would also just show off once again the Sean Gordon Murphy
You
variant
double
that I
dipped.
think is so good.
Oh,
Did you
good
double dip
call.
before we told you we couldn't read it?
Dude, not only did I double dip before you guys told me you could read it, I double dipped before I even knew if I cared about this comic book. I bought these right then and there at Midtown. I was like, oh shit. I see Sean Gordon Murphy art. I buy it. That's it.
Fair.
And I'm glad I did. I actually really enjoyed this. So the creative team is Blake Northcutt, who is a writer of novels as well. And so this was actually released as a novel already. And this is an adaptation of that. Giuseppe Carafo on art, Brian Valenza on colors, and Northworld Publishing on the letters. I'll make this really fast. I enjoyed this a lot. It is a magic story in a lot of ways, which we've been getting a lot of, I feel like, in comics. And so it has DNA with a lot of other things that you can imagine, but it features adults. And so it's not a Harry Potter clone or anything like that. It's a slicker book than that. It's got some James Bond to it, where one of the main characters that we follow is a very cool, agent.
Looks nice.
Sorry, Tyler?
The art looks good.
The art's very good. The art is very, very high quality.
I couldn't even find preview pages for it. Like, it's very mystery.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
It looks very early McKelvey,
Oh,
the art from here anyway. Across the pond.
Yeah. I've never seen Giuseppe Carafo's art before, but I was extremely impressed by it. It's got a scratchiness that I really, 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 really like. I don't want to say it reminds me of Gordon Murphy fully, but maybe a little tiny bit. And echoes of other creators too. But the other thing I wanted to shout out as well, on the art side of things, is actually the special effects in the way that they would showcase or describe where we are. I don't know how well you guys will be able to see this, but right there in the corner, in the establishing shot that we're in London, there's this really cool graphic that says it's London, and then it shows like a little bit of the map of London. And so you can see that there, and the flag. And they do that every time that we switch locations. So I thought that was really slick.
I just heard the
Wow.
Austin Powers like intercut theme in my head when you showed me that panel.
I like the characters a lot. I will say that the book doesn't probably do anything like revelatory, but there is a cool twist at the end that makes me want to come back. So hats off to the creative team. I will certainly be coming back for this. This was a big surprise for me. It's not the best book I read this week, but it's the book that had the most heavy lifting to do, because these are all brand new characters. And I think Blake Northcutt did an admirable job alongside the art team, who were all phenomenal. Colors, letters included. Great job.
Did it? I know Blake's worked on. I think like she worked on Catwoman, I believe. So this isn't her. This isn't her
I
first
think that's
rodeo. In terms
Oh,
of
really?
comics,
Your second.
yeah, at least her second. rodeo.
Nice. And for anybody interested in the art, I shared in the chats the link to their Instagram page. Solid stuff, really good stuff.
Is there Lovecraftian stuff in here, Sean? The cover shows a big old tentacle.
Kind of. There is a grimoire, and whenever there's that, you can expect some horror stuff.
Yeah.
The most horror or Lovecraftian thing that happens is something that I don't think I want to spoil.
Okay.
But it is a really cool moment towards the very, very end of the book where the main character does something fucking crazy that you kind of just have to see for yourself. But it does lean into the question that you just asked me.
Well, if it ever gets released digitally, maybe I'll check it out.
Absolutely. Roboters 100 says, I'm not the biggest fan of Sean Gordon Murphy, but I will not deny he can draw. He can draw his ass off. Personal opinions aside, wherever you land with that is whatever. But in terms of craft, I think he's super talented. Yeah, so really enjoyed this. I think you should go out and pick it up if you can. All right, so let's tell you guys the books that we're excited for next week in a little segment we call Pals Pulse.
Sean, you're reading a book called Venom. Venom number 20. 20.
Where am I?
Oh God, I'm so behind.
I think that Venom is my favorite ongoing book right now.
Wow.
Damn.
Are you reading
It's
Carnage?
that. I fell off Carnage, but I also really like Carnage too, and I will be finishing it up before we speak with Rom.
Oh, good, because Carnage is one of the very few books that I am up to date on.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, Venom is great. Obviously, that's Al Ewing and Rom V together. But it's a knockout story that will change your mind on Eddie Brock and Venom if you're a hater, and it will reinvigorate your love for the character and really kind of teach you who the character really is if you're looking for more. So there's no reason not to buy this. It's been phenomenal. Tyler, we can't hear you.
All right, so we also have Loki number 1, Sean. Ooh, look at this.
Dan Waters.
Team. Not just Dan Waters, Armand Peralta.
Yes.
And Mike Spicer.
So
ooh.
I wasn't looking forward to this at all before the Seasons Have Teeth, which is another Dan Waters book that I believe is coming out through Boom, and that's been great. So because of that, I'm excited for more Dan Waters, and this is the most immediate book that I know of that he's doing, so I'm all in on Loki. Not a character that I care about too much in the comics as an individual, more so the things that he does in other people's books. So I'll give the benefit of the doubt that Dan Waters can tell a compelling story with Loki.
And Kel was here. Well, actually, we're at Marco's now. So, Marco, Dark Knights of Steel, number 11 of 12.
Consistently just a fun ass book.
Mm-hmm.
It took a little bit of a break, so it's back, and I'm just excited to read more. Man, this has been a knockout team. I think what Tom Taylor's been doing is very Game of Thrones-esque, and I'm in for it. And particular shout out to Yasmin Putri, who her art is just wild. Like the fact that she's not on more books is mind-boggling to me. She absolutely needs to get honestly, she's like Dan Mora levels, and he's doing covers on this. She's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm also up to date on this, and I think this is a really good book.
Yeah, and it's gonna end, dude. Issue 11 of 12. I'm sad. Penultimate.
Yeah. And you also wanted to check out something called Sins of the Salton Sea by Ed Brisson and C.P. Smith.
Yeah. So this is AWA, Artists, Writers, and Artisans. Anything that they've been putting out, in my opinion, has been standout. And so anytime that they have a new book coming out, this one being Ed Brisson, who we've interviewed in the past and generally enjoy his books, I'm down to try this out. And artist C.P. Smith, there's a few preview pages out there, and I dig the art. So I'm in on this series, and the premise itself seems fun. Part cult-based horror, and then thriller chase movie. So I'm in for it.
It's gonna be crazy. I can't wait.
Oh yeah,
really cool cover.
I love Ed Brisson. Ed Brisson is the man.
Yeah, I'm excited for this.
You're a big Brisson boy. I want to check out Shazam #2. I really like that first issue. So
Great movie, dude.
I haven't seen it yet. I can watch it whenever now, but I have no urge to. Yeah, Shazam #2. That first issue blew my pants off. I still am pantsless. I have not put pants on since.
Stand up and prove it.
We're live across 3 platforms right now, Sean. You want us to lose our livelihood here?
Stand up.
Yeah.
So you're free balling it. You're not wearing.
I'm Donald
underwear
Ducking
either?
it right now, dude.
Oh, I'm uncomfortable.
Do it.
Prove it.
Do it. Do it. Call his bluff. Call his bluff.
Yeah,
Let's
Word.
go.
All right. I have gray thighs, guys. I need to go to the doctor. I also want to check out Steelworks #1. This is written by Michael Dorn. I like Worf.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Michael Dorn, that handsome son of a gun. I want to see what he can do in terms of a DC comic. He also he has history with Steel as a character, so I'm excited for that. And Kale, I know people on the YouTube chat are mentioning this, and we haven't mentioned it yet. But Flash #800 is what you're picking.
Flash 800. Yeah. Very excited for this anniversary issue. It's gonna have Mark Wade, Jeff Johns, Joshua Williamson, Jeremy Adams, and then Cy Spurrier. But 4 out of 5 ain't bad.
Isn't Cy going to be the new ongoing writer?
Yes.
Yeah. So
okay.
it's gonna have look back stories with Wade, Johns, and Adams and Williamson, and then a look at what the future is gonna be with Cy Spurrier. I think it's really cool.
Man, Mark Wade's Flash is one of the first DC books I ever bought.
Yep.
It was
Jeff
like
Johns was mine. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a Grodd story that I picked up at a Barnes & Noble. Man, I loved it. It was dumb. I remember being stupid, but it was just wholesome, good stuff.
It's
So
great. Yeah.
I guess I'll check this out. But yeah, that's we're pulling.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. We appreciate you all incredibly much. We have a big show coming up on Saturday where we will be interviewing Ram V live. So if you enjoy watching us live, or if you never have before, but you want to hear our Ram V interview first before it's up anywhere else, come Saturday live on Twitch and YouTube, 10:15 a.m. Eastern. If you've got questions for Ram, I'd recommend sending them early. If you are a patron, if you're a member of patreon.com/thecomicspals, then regardless of when you get your question to us, it will absolutely be asked to Ram. That's a Comics Pals guarantee. But otherwise, get it in early so that we have them. Asking questions live, we might not see them, so get them in early. And there's a lot of other great stuff happening on our Patreon page, so check it out. We've got newsletters. Kale just dropped his. We've got Tyler. Was it you? You were pointing at yourself?
No, I was pointing down to Kale on the screen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Marco's below you for me.
Okay.
So Kale just put up his newsletter. We've got new palling around over there. You get a nickname and a shout out on the show and a whole bunch of other stuff. Check us out on patreon.com/thecomicspals. Watch this show live every single Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be talking next week about the big Flash milestone and a bunch of other books. If you want to influence the books that we read, just like readers did this week, you can do that every single Friday on our Twitch or Twitter page, rather. There's a poll that goes up and you can vote, and whatever wins the poll will be added to this show for review. This week we added 2 books because why not? Thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate you. Go ahead, Tyler.
One thing, our Across the Spider-Verse review will be coming out on YouTube on Sunday. So
yes,
look out for that too.
Yes. I'm actually on my way to go watch that movie